So we're not going to stop the development. People say, well, why don't we just stop it now? We're not going to stop it because it's too good for too many things. Also, we're not going to stop it because it's good for battle robots, and none of the countries that sell weapons are going to want to stop it. Like the European regulations, they have some regulations about AI. It's good they have some regulations, but they're not designed to deal with most of the threats. And in particular, the European regulations have a clause in them that say none of these regulations apply to military uses of AI. So governments are willing to regulate companies and people, but they're not willing to regulate
It seems pretty crazy to me that I go back and forward, but Europe has a regulation, but the rest of the world doesn't.
Yes, puts them at a competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, and we're seeing this already. I don't think people realise that when OpenAI release a new model or a new piece of software in America, they can't release it to Europe yet because of regulations here. So Sam Altman tweeted saying our new AI agent is available to everybody, but can't come to Europe yet because there's regulations.
Yes.
So does that gives us a productive disadvantage?
Yes. What we need is, at this point in history, when we're about to produce things more intelligent than ourselves, what we really need is a kind of world government that works run by intelligent, thoughtful people. And that's not what we've got.
So, free for all.
Well, what we've got is sort of, we've got capitalism, which is done very nicely by us. It's produced lots of goods and services for us. But these big companies, they're legally required to try and maximise profits. And that's not what you want from the people developing this.
So let's do the risks then. You talked about there's human risks and then there's...
So I've distinguished these two kinds of risks. Let's talk about all the risks from bad human actors using it. There's cyber attacks. So between 2023 and 2024, they increased by about a factor of 1200%. And that's probably because these large language models make it much easier to do phishing attacks.
And phishing attacks are one of
They send you something saying, hi, I'm your friend John and I'm stuck in El Salvador. Could you just wire this money? That's one kind of attack. But the phishing attacks are really trying to get your login connections.
And now with AI, they can clone my voice, my image.
They can do all that.
I'm struggling at the moment because there's a bunch of AI scams on X and also Meta. And there's one in particular on Meta, so Instagram, Facebook at the moment, which is a paid advert, where they've taken my voice from the podcast, they've taken my mannerisms, and they've made a new video of me encouraging people to go and take part in this crypto Ponzi scam or whatever. And we spent weeks and weeks and weeks on emailing Meta telling please take this down. They take it down, another one pops up. They take that one down, another one pops up. So it's like whack-a-mole. And then
very annoying.
The heartbreaking part is you get the messages from people that are falling for the scam. And they've lost £500 or $500.
And they cross with you because you recommended it.
I'm a sad for them.
It's very annoying. I have a smaller version of that, which is some people now publish papers with me as one of the authors. And it looks like it's in order that they can get lots of citations to themselves.
So cyber attacks are a real threat. There's been an explosion of those.
And these already, obviously AI is very patient, so they can go through 100 million lines of code looking for known ways of attacking them. That's easy to do. But they can get more creative, and they may, some people believe, and some people who know a lot believe that maybe by 2030, they'll be creating new kinds of cyber attacks, which no person ever thought of. So that's very worrisome.
Because they can think to themselves.
They can think to themselves. They can draw new conclusions from much more data than a person ever saw.
Is there anything you're doing to protect yourself from cyber attacks?
Yes. It's one of the few places where I changed what I do radically because I'm scared of cyber attacks. Canadian banks are extremely safe. In 2008, no Canadian banks came anywhere near Craigslist. They're very safe banks because they're well regulated. Nevertheless, I think a cyber attack might go to a bank. Now, if you have all my savings in shares in banks, held by banks, so if the bank gets attacked and it pulls your shares, they're still your shares. And so I think you'd be okay, unless The attacker sells the shares because the bank can sell the shares. If the attacker sells your shares, I think you're screwed. I don't know. I mean, maybe the bank would have to try and reimburse you, but the bank's bust by now, right? So I'm worried about a Canadian bank being taken down by a cyber attack and the attacker selling shares that it holds. So I spread my money, my children's money, between 3 banks, in the belief that if a cyber attack takes down one Canadian bank, the other Canadian banks will very quickly get very careful.
And do you have a phone that's not connected to the internet? Do you have any, I'm thinking about storing data and stuff like that. Do you think it's wise to consider having cold storage?
I have a little disk drive and I back up my laptop on this hard drive. So I actually have everything on my laptop on a hard drive. At least, if the whole internet went down, I can have the sense I've still got it on my laptop and I've still got my information here. Then the next thing is using AIs to create nasty viruses. And the problem with that is that just requires one crazy guy with a grudge, one guy who knows a little bit of molecular biology, knows a lot about AI, and just wants to destroy the world. You can now create new viruses relatively cheaply using AI. And you don't have to be a very skilled molecular biologist to do it, and that's very scary. So you could have a small cult, for example. A small cult might be able to raise a few $1 million. For a few $1 million, they might be able to design a whole bunch of viruses.
Well, I'm thinking about some of our foreign ministries doing government-funded programs. There's lots of talk around COVID and the Wuhan laboratory and what they were doing and gain function research. But I'm wondering if in China or Russia or Iran or something, the government could fund a program for a small group of scientists to make a virus that would,
I think we could, yes. Now, they'd be worried about retaliation. They'd be worried about other governments doing the same to them. Hopefully that would keep it under control. They might also be worried about the virus spreading to their country.
Okay.
Then there's corrupting elections. So if you wanted to use AI to corrupt elections, a very effective thing is to be able to do targeted political advertisements where you know a lot about the person. So, anybody who wants to use AI for corrupting elections would try and get as much data as they could about everybody in the election. With that in mind, it's a bit worrying what Musk is doing as President of the States. Going in and insisting on getting access to all these things that are very carefully siloed. The claim is it's to make things more efficient, but it's exactly what you would want if you intended to corrupt the next election.
How do you mean? Because you get all this data on
You get all this data on people. You know how much they make, where you know everything about them. Once you know that, it's very easy to manipulate.
Because you can make an AI that...
You can send messages that they'll find very convincing, telling them not to vote, for example. So I have no reason other than common sense to think this, but I wouldn't be surprised if part of the motivation of getting all this data from American government sources is to corrupt elections. Another part might be that it's very nice training data for a big model.
But he would have to be taking that data from the government and feeding it into his...
Yes, and what they've done is turned off lots of the security controls, got rid of the thumb of the organisation to protect against that.
So that's corrupting elections.
Okay, then there's creating these 2 echo chambers by organisations like YouTube and Facebook, showing people things that will make them indignant. People love to be indignant.
Indignant as in angry? Or what does indignant mean?
Feeling, I'm sort of angry but feeling righteous. So for example, if you were to show me something that said, Trump did this crazy thing, here's a video of Trump doing this completely crazy thing, I would immediately click on it.
Okay, so putting us in echo chambers and dividing us.
Yes, and that's the policy that YouTube and Facebook and others use for deciding what to show you next is causing that. If they had a policy of showing you balanced things, they wouldn't get so many clicks and they wouldn't be able to sell so many advertisements. And so it's basically the profit motive is saying, show them whatever will make them click. And what will make them click is things that are more and more extreme.
And that confirm my existing bias.
They confirm my existing bias. So you're getting your biases confirmed.
Further and further and further and further, which means
Which is now in the States there's two communities that don't hardly talk to each other.
I'm not sure people realise that this is actually happening every time they open an app, but if you go on a TikTok or a YouTube or one of these big social networks, the algorithm, as you said, is designed to show you more of the things that you had interest in last time. So if you just play that out for 10 years, it's going to drive you further and further and further into whatever ideology or belief you have, and further away from nuance and common sense and clarity, which is a pretty remarkable thing. Like, people don't know it's happening. They just open their phones and experience something and think this is the news or the experience everyone else is having.
Right, so basically, if you have a newspaper and everybody gets the same newspaper, you get to see all sorts of things you weren't looking for. And you get a sense that if it's in the newspaper, it's an important thing or significant thing. But if you have your own news feed, my news feed on my iPhone, 3/4 of the stories are about AI. And I find it very hard to know if the whole world's talking about AI all the time, or if it's just my news feed.
Okay, so driving me into my echo chambers, which is going to continue to divide us further and further. I'm actually noticing that the algorithm is becoming even more, what's the word, tailored. And people might go, oh, that's great. But what it means is they're becoming even more personalised, which means that my reality is becoming even further from your reality.
Yeah, it's crazy. We don't have a shared reality anymore. I share reality with other people who watch the BBC, and other BBC News, and other people who read The Guardian, and other people who read the New York Times. I have almost no shared reality with people who watch Fox News.
It's pretty
It's worrisome.
Yeah.
Behind all this is the idea that these companies just want to make profit, and they'll do whatever it takes to make more profit.
Because they have to.
They're legally obliged to do it.
So we almost can't blame the company, can we?
Well, capitalism's done very well for us. It's produced lots of goodies, but you need to have it very well regulated. So what you really want is to have rules so that when some company is trying to make as much profit as possible, in order to make that profit, they have to do things that are good for people in general, not things that are bad for people in general. So once you get to a situation where in order to make more profit, the company starts doing things that are very bad for society, like showing you things that are more and more extreme, that's what regulations are. So you need regulations for companies. Now companies will always say regulations get in the way, make us less efficient, and that's true. The whole point of regulations is to stop them doing things to make profit that hurt society. And we need strong regulation.
Who's going to decide whether it hurts society or not?
That's the job of politicians. Unfortunately, if the politicians are owned by the companies, that's not so good.
And also the politicians might not understand the technology. You've probably seen the Senate hearings where they wheel out Mark Zuckerberg and big tech CEOs. And it is quite embarrassing because they're asking the wrong questions.
Well, I've seen the video of the US Education Secretary talking about how they're going to get AI in the classrooms, except she thought it was called A1. She's actually there saying we're going to have all the kids interacting with A1.
School system that's going to start making sure that first graders, even pre-K, have A1 teaching every year starting that far down in the grades, and that's just that's a wonderful thing.
And these are the people that...
These are the people in charge.
Ultimately the tech companies are in charge. Because they
Well,
are smart.
the tech companies in the States now, at least a few weeks ago when I was there, they were running an advertisement about how it was very important not to regulate AI because it might hurt us in the competition with China.
Yeah. And that's a plausible argument, no?
Yes, it will, but you have to decide. Do you want to compete with China by doing things that will do a lot of harm to your society? Well, you probably don't.
I guess they would say that it's not just China, it's Denmark and Australia and Canada and
They're not so worried about it.
and Germany. But if they kneecap themselves with regulation, they say to themselves, no, then the founders and investors.
I think calling it kneecapping is sort of taking a particular point of view. It's taking the point of view that regulations are sort of very helpful. What you need to do is just constrain the big companies so that in order to make profit, they have to do things that are socially useful. Like Google search is a great example. That didn't need regulation because it just made information available to people. It was great. But then if you take YouTube, which starts showing you adverts and showing you more and more extreme things, that needs regulation.
But we don't have the people to regulate it.
I think people know pretty well that particular problem of showing you more and more extreme things. That's a well-known problem that the politicians understand. They just get to get around the regulating.
So that was the next point, which was that the algorithms are going to drive us further into our echo chambers.
Right. Lethal autonomous weapons.
Lethal autonomous weapons.
That means things that can kill you and make their own decision on whether to kill you.
Which is the great dream, I guess, of the military industrial complex. Being able to create such weapons.
So the worst thing about them is big powerful countries always have the ability to invade smaller, poorer countries. They're just not powerful. But if you do that using actual soldiers, you get bodies coming back in bags, and the relatives of the soldiers who were killed don't like it. So you get something like Vietnam. In the end, there's a lot of protest at home. If instead of bodies coming back in bags, it was dead robots, there would be much less protest, and the military-industrial complex would like it much more, because robots are expensive. And suppose you had something that could get killed and was expensive to replace, that would be just great. Big countries invade small countries much more easily because they don't have their soldiers being killed.
And the risk here is function, or they'll just be
No, that's, even if the robots do exactly what the people who built the robots want them to do, the risk is that it's going to make big countries invade small countries. Yeah, it's not a nice thing to do. It brings down the cost of doing an invasion.
And these machines will be smarter as well. So
Well, even when the machines aren't smarter, so the lethal autonomous weapons, they can make them now, and I think all the big defense firms are busy making them. Even if they're not smart enough, they're still very nasty, scary things.